welcome to my channel, Acids and Gases. Today we're going to continue refining my leftover solutions, particularly this one here. The one I like to refer to as the beaker of mystery. It's destroyed a stopper. It contains, I know, leftover from washes of a gold fill refine. In addition, the super concentrated waste solutions from probably 50 or 60 other refines, thus the beaker of mysteries. Okay, well, to start, we're going to filter the solution. You can see here it's got a bunch of solid, not just floating on it. There's a bunch at the bottom. Most of this have come from stoppers. This is the second stopper that this particular beaker is destroyed. You see it's cracked, it's coming apart. Um, it's trash. Okay, well, this is filtering, and we'll talk a little bit more about kind of what the solution is, where it came from. As I mentioned earlier, initially this started with a gold-filled refine, and this beaker contained the washes, both from the dirty drop, the initial drop, as well as the refine washes for that refine. And as normal, kind of like my other temporary stock pot, it was pretty normal, other than somewhat dirty because of the initial dirty drop wash in there. Interesting with this one was that the gold powder that had settled on the bottom of the dirty wash solution just dissolved one day. Not exactly sure how or why, but it went into solution. I guess before I go too much further here, should do a quick stannous test to confirm we have gold in solution. You can see here we're getting a decent positive result there. Nice dark stain. So there is definitely values in that beaker. The remainder of the solution is evaporated remains of barren waste materials that started to show values as they concentrated. So filtering's done. We're going to go ahead and take this down, put this into a beaker. And while I'm getting that set up, just kind of want to go over here. So these waste materials, normally when I process, I evaporate my waste down significantly. This should have been a completely barren, tested barren. Gold had dropped, copper had been in it. As it concentrated, it started to behave a little differently, and so I did give it a test, and it started to test slightly positive. I reduced the rest of it down and just mixed these two together. Figured it's going to be dirty and ugly no matter what it is, but that's where we are. You can see though, now that we got the junk out of there, it's not bad. That said, most of our drops and stuff we do require acidic solutions. I'm not exactly sure where this is, so I'm going to do a quick pH test just to be sure. It's acidic, ready to move on to recovery. All right, for our recovery out of this relatively ugly solution, we're going to go ahead and use our SMB. This is just stump out, low night stump out, can be bought at Home Depot. All right, so we're going to put a couple of teaspoons in here. Going to let the foam that forms on top there settle down a little bit, give it a couple of stirs, and then we'll see where we're at. It's not that unusual for these dirty solutions that they foam up. It's generally not the pretty drop that you see with the nice clean solution. That's extra base metals, etc., and they're causing problems. I like to let them settle down before I go too far, because it's hard to really tell when the stump out itself or the SMB is just settling on the bottom. Do one more teaspoon here, stir it in, and we'll give it a test. All right, test with our stannous chloride. It's probably a little hard to see. I can see there, you can see, maybe if I get the light just right, it's slightly positive. So we're just going to give it another teaspoon here, stir that in, and test again. Now that we're fully filtered, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick wash of what's in that filter with some uric acid, hydrochloric acid. Just kind of clean it up a little bit before we move on to refining the gold. Okay, going to take our filter here, put it into the beaker. We'll move our waste solution this time. I think it really is waste solution off to the side. We're going to dissolve this in aqua regia. So we're going to start here, going to put some hydrochloric, use what's left from what I was doing for the wash. It's going to need a little bit more, so I'm going to add a little more here from a big jug into a tiny beaker. It's probably about 120 milliliters of hydrochloric acid in there. Set it up on the heat, push the filter down in there. The aqua regia will dissolve the filter, and we'll clear that out later when we filter this solution once it's done dissolving the gold. In the meantime, we're going to put ourselves on the heat, put the cover on, and we're going to add some nitric acid. Getting close here for you. This is nitric acid. I'm not expecting a whole ton again here, but we're going to go ahead and put about 4 milliliters in to start. Because this was an ugly solution, also going to add a couple of drops of sulfuric acid. This will precipitate out any lead when we do our filtering, so we can remove anything like that that might have made its way through to this point. Okay, we'll adjust that cover here, get it back on tight. Leave this on the heat, let the aqua regia do its thing. So I pulled it off the heat just to let the bubbles stop enough for me to see if there's solids still left in here. It's hard to tell on the camera from this angle, but there are some solids in there. So I'm going to put it back on the heat and give it a little more nitric acid. See, when I do that, the reaction picks up considerably. Let that go for a while, checking occasionally to see if there's any solids left in there. The reaction seems complete. We have no more solids. Fumes have basically stopped producing. I think we are ready to move on to the next step. So we'll set this over here, let it cool just a little bit. Again, we'll do a quick stannous test. I expect we're going to see a fairly significant stain on this one. So a little solution there. Drop of our stannous chloride. You can see very dark. So I've added some ice solution, precipitated silver chloride before we move on to filtering. So we're set up to filter. See the junk we're going to filter out of here. So we'll use our filters here, number 2. Get that into our funnel. Filter this solution and see what we have. First filtration is done. You can see in the flask that the solution is significantly clearer. We're going to go ahead though and take a closer look at that. It's clearer, but it still has a little bit of cloudiness to it. See if it looks better here if I hold it up in the beaker. In any case, we're going to filter this again, and hopefully if you kind of look at this and you look at the filtration afterwards, we'll see the benefit of always filtering one more time. So we'll get set up here. We're going to go back through the same filter. It's got all that gunk in it, so it's going to be much tighter filter this time around. Okay, second filtration's done. It's looking pretty good. Get it cleaned up here. There's a little bit of solution still in that paper. Put that in our paper storage, recover it when we process our papers. And I hope you can see, especially as I transfer over here to the beaker, just how much clearer the second filtration is than the first. The first didn't look horrible, but the second one is just crystal clear. You can see perfectly through that solution. All right, we have our solution. We have our stump out SMB to precipitate. Have our testing strips and stannous chloride here next to it. And so we're going to go ahead and add some SMB to the solution. I love these nice clean drops. It goes SMB, and boom, just like that, the gold is coming out of solution. We're going to stir that around a little bit. We'll add just a little bit more. We'll do a quick stannous test. Make sure we have all the gold out of solution. Our first test showed gold in solution. You can see it sitting there on the side. I've added a little more SMB. Do another test. Make sure we all have it all this time. This time you can see it's negative. Absolutely nothing. So cover that back up. Then we'll go ahead and set this up here out of the way. Let the gold settle. So the gold is settled nicely to the bottom of the beaker. Pull out our temporary stock pot again. And we're going to go ahead and decant this off and wash the gold. So first just going to pull that out. You can see it's a nice little layer on the bottom. Let's decant this off. All right, going to try to rinse this with some distilled water. See if it'll settle down. Give it a couple of seconds. Then we'll decant off the distilled water. That's pretty fine. I can see it coming. It's pretty fine gold. You can see that we're losing a fair amount of gold into the beaker. I think before I go forward with distilled washes, I'm going to do a hydrochloric boil. This will pull up base metals. Oftentimes the superfine stuff's because of base metals. But it also tends to have a good effect of making the gold clump together, settle faster, makes washing it much easier going forward. So we have our hydrochloric in there. I'm going to put this up on the heat, put a cover on it, and let it boil. All right, so we've been boiling for about 10 minutes now. I'm going to go ahead and pull this off, let it settle down a little. Could definitely tell a couple of things with this. One, the gold is clumped up better. And two, because there's color in that hydrochloric after the boil, so there were some base metals in there that the hydrochloric acid brought out. So we'll rinse this off. Whoa, that was fun. Thermal shock in slow-mo right here. Looks like I might have to buy some new watch glasses. we're going to get that piece of glass out of there. Continue with our washes. I'm sure to rinse off any gold that might have stuck to it. And one thing you're going to see here is that as we decant off our acid, we decant off our water washes, the gold settles very, very quickly. The hydrochloric oil did a really good job of knocking that down and clumping it together. So we're going to go through several of these boiling water washes, get as much of that acid or all that acid off of there. We could refine this again, but we're going to go ahead and just dry it. So we're drying our powder on a warm catch plate. The heat's not on, that's just residual warmth. We don't want anything too hot, we don't want it splattering everywhere. So our gold powder is dry. See it's moving around there. We're going to go ahead and weigh this up, see what we got. So take our scale, go ahead and get it on there, and what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and use the beaker. This is from our previous video of waste solutions. It's about 7.33 grams in this beaker. Go ahead and set that up on the scale, tear it out. We'll then add our current powder to this and refine it all together for a final refine once we're through the process. So here we go. Get it over so you can get a better picture of it. And from there, we have 2.6 grams of gold. Not the cleanest. You can see that a little bit dark color, but gold all the same. Well, that concludes this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe if you enjoyed this. Comments are always welcome.